Hi, y'all. Welcome to this little introduction to philosophy. Now, today, the book that I'm using for our introduction is this book, Writing Philosophy, A Student's Guide to Writing Philosophy Essays by Lewis Vaughn. It's a really good book, and you can get it very inexpensively online. So with this question of what is philosophy, sometimes it's easier to define something after we know what it's not. So I'd like to go ahead and start off talking about this by kind of dispelling some of the rumors or getting rid of some of the misconceptions that I tend to hear from my students about philosophy. So some of the misconceptions that I hear about philosophy are that philosophy is simply a lot of unanswerable questions, that philosophy is all a matter of opinion, that philosophy is all relative, that all answers in a philosophy class are correct, and that there is no right or wrong answer. Those are misconceptions about philosophy, and we will talk about all of them. But before we get into that, one of the things that people sometimes do when they talk about philosophy is they use the word philosophy when they actually mean worldview. So a person will say, I have a different philosophy of life, but they actually mean their worldview about something. And Vaughn writes about this in his book. And what he says is, a worldview is a set of fundamental ideas that help us sense a wide range of important issues in life. A worldview defines for us what exists, what should be, and what we can know. An interesting fact about worldviews is that we all have one. We all have certain ideas about what exists and what doesn't, what kinds of actions are right and wrong, what we can know and what we cannot know. Even the rejection of all worldviews is a worldview. A vital question then is not whether we have a worldview, but whether our worldview is worth having, whether the beliefs that constitute our worldview are true. Since our lives are guided by our philosophy, our worldview had better be good. So using philosophy in the broad sense is the best way we have of evaluating philosophy in this narrower sense of your own worldview. So what he's saying there is we use philosophy to evaluate our worldview. Now, that gets us to the question of, well, if philosophy isn't a worldview, then what is it? So I think this is one of the best definitions of what philosophy is. He says, more than anything else, philosophy is a process, a careful, systematic investigation of fundamental beliefs. When we get involved in the process, we are doing philosophy. We're doing what both great philosophers and ordinary people have been doing for thousands of years. To put it more precisely, doing philosophy consists mainly of the systematic use of critical reasoning to explore answers to basic questions, to clarify the meaning of concepts, and to formulate or evaluate logical arguments. So the thing about that is, philosophy, if you break down the word philosophy and you look at it from the Greek roots of philo and sophia, philo meaning love or lover, and sophia meaning wisdom, put that together, and philosophy is a love of wisdom. So a philosopher is a person who is searching for wisdom. Now, it's not just that a philosopher is looking for wisdom, they're looking for truth. Really, philosophy is the search for truth in all things. But it's a systematic search. We're not just asking questions to ask questions, and we don't just accept everything as fact and everything is true. And even if we have truth and we have fact, is it presented in a way that is reasoned well? Is it a logical argument that's presenting those ideas? So philosophy is a systematic search for truth in all things. All right? Now, about the idea that philosophy is all a matter of opinion, as I've said, that is not the case. Philosophers are not just trying to validate what they think. Philosophers are actually trying to find truth in the world. Now, the idea that philosophy is just a bunch of unanswered questions, I can explain that to you. So what you need to know about that is we have to take a look at the history of philosophy as an academic discipline and consider this. Philosophy is the oldest academic discipline. So it was the only thing to study. So back in ancient Greece, which is where all of this came about, philosophy was the only academic discipline. There was nothing else to study because philosophy was the study of all things. It's a search for truth in all things. So starting point for all discussions of any academic discipline actually comes down to philosophy. So back in ancient Greece, they were talking about all of these different ideas that we have about things now about, science. So chemistry, biology, math, medicine, economics, ethics, religion, language, politics, business, all of those topics fell under the topic of philosophy. So the way that this worked was, philosophers would ask questions about these different ideas. And as they went through the systematic evaluation of ideas, and they came up with different theories, whenever they found something to be true, that thing that they found that they held to be true was such an important thing that whenever they discovered this truth about the world, they would make that discovery a new discipline. So, hey, you two calm down. Sorry, my dog and my cat are playing and they're getting kind of rough. Hey, calm down. Sorry. So, apologize about the interruption. So for every discipline that we have that's not philosophy, it came from philosophy. So one example of this is if you look at all of the different sciences, those came from the discipline of natural philosophy. Natural philosophy then branched off and became a bunch of different disciplines in science. So once philosophers find the answer they're looking for, that answer is so important that it creates a new academic discipline. That discipline gets a name and it goes off to discover more truths in that discipline. But what happens is all of those unanswered questions, the questions we haven't answered yet, those stay under the subject of philosophy. So that's why it seems like philosophy is just a bunch of unanswered questions or unanswerable questions, is because it consists of the questions that haven't yet been answered. So that's my little introduction to that information about philosophy. Now, if y'all take a look at your notes, you'll see that there are different branches. Hey, y'all, calm down. There are different branches of philosophy. We have epistemology, metaphysics, ethics, logic, applied philosophy. Different people will talk about different branches, but usually we talk about them in 4 or 5 main branches. We're concerned with ethics in this class. Ethics is moral philosophy. So ethics is asking questions about how we should act, what actions should we take, how should we treat each other, those sorts of things. So when you have a should question, about should I lie? Should I help this person? Should I do this? Those are ethical questions. I'm sorry, these two are just really, they're making a fuss over here, having a good time, but they're making a lot of noise. I hope it's not bothering y'all. So when we talk about ethical questions, the thing that we need to understand is, yes, everyone is going to have different ideas about ethics. And this is one of the reasons why ethics is still the purview of philosophy, right? Like we haven't found a truth about it. We haven't found some universal way of dealing with this. So we're going to take a look at these different questions under different areas of ethics. So first in the semester, we're going to take a look at metaethics. And metaethics is asking questions about ethics, about it as a discipline, and about the different types of theories that we'll be talking about. Metaethics is going to ask, what is good? Why is something good? Is it the case that we have universal moral values, or is it the case that values are relative? So metaethics is exploring those questions about ethics. Next, we'll take a look at what's called value theory. And with value theory, what we're trying to do there is we're trying to determine what it is that's considered intrinsically good or valuable. And with value theory, we're looking at what it means for a person to live a good life. What does that mean? What does that look like? Now, notice that when we talk about value theory, when we say a person to live a good life, we really are talking about one person's life, a single life. Now, the systems of ethics that look at how all of us should act and how all of us should behave towards one another and towards ourselves, those systems that are saying that there are universal moral rules that we should all be following, those fall under the heading of normative ethics. And that's where we'll spend the vast majority of the semester, is looking at normative ethics. But before we kick off our study of ethics, we're going to do a little bit of work with logic. Now, as I said, when I was talking about our little introduction to what is philosophy, this is a systematic evaluation. And in order for us to do a systematic evaluation, there have to be some rules about how we are going to evaluate things. We have to have guidelines, and we apply those rules and we apply those guidelines to all of the material that we study. So when we come to class next time, we'll be talking about this idea of how do we read philosophy? How do we write philosophy? Because philosophy is written in a certain way. And that means that we have to approach it a certain way whenever we read it. We need to have a strategy for how we're going to approach philosophical text. Also, next time, we're going to take a look at philosophical arguments. That's how philosophy is written. So we have to understand what these arguments are, what the parts of the arguments are, and that will lead us then into our discussion of critical thinking, logic, and fallacies, which is what we'll work on not next week. Next week is spring break. The week after spring break. Okay, y'all, I just wanted to give you this quick introduction to philosophy, an introduction to ethics, so y'all can see what we're going to be talking about over the course of the semester. Now, one of the important things that I want to impart on y'all is that I am not trying to convince any of you that any of these theories are better or worse, or that you should be following any of these systems or anything like that. We're not trying to all think the same way or think the same things about different issues. That is not the point. The point of this class is for every one of us to learn about these different ethical theories. We want to know what are the rules of them? How do they work? How would they apply to a situation in real life? We want to evaluate these systems of ethics. What are the positive attributes of them? What are the negative attributes of them? We want to make sure that you understand critical thinking, that we're able to evaluate arguments. So what I'm concerned with is us becoming better philosophers, the process of becoming better philosophers. The results of that, as far as what you decide you think, what ethical theory you choose, or if you reject them all, or if you make your own ethical theory up with some of the different things we learn throughout the semester, that's up to you. What y'all think about different issues that are presented to us in the various forms of information in the class, that's up to you. That's not up to me. You will never be graded on what you say as far as your conclusion to something. That's not going to happen. I'm just going to see, did you do the work and did you answer the questions? And if I need to give y'all more information based on maybe if it seems like a lot of people are not getting a certain topic, then I'll figure out how to present that to you better. So my job here is to help facilitate the process of us all becoming better philosophers, better critical thinkers, and of introducing this information about ethical systems to you. So I hope that y'all enjoy this semester. I'm very excited about it. And if y'all have any questions, send me an email at cc1021@txstate.edu. Okay, I apologize about the puppy and kitty play stuff in the background. Thank you so much for your patience and your understanding regarding that. All right, y'all have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.